Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's jump straight in. You know that completely overwhelming feeling when you're just starting a research project? Yeah, we've all been there. Well, you are in the right place today. We're talking about how to take these massive, totally unmanageable subjects and shrink them down into laser-focused, actionable research topics. We're going to go over some really effective tools today that'll honestly save you from research fatigue, and they'll give your literature review the exact structure it desperately needs right from day one.
To get us started, picture this. Suppose you sit down at your desk and decide, I'm going to research artificial intelligence. It's a huge, fascinating, trendy topic, right? But seriously, if you typed that exact phrase into an academic database right now, how many research papers do you think actually exist? Take a guess. Imagine hitting search and just watching that terrifying wave of information overload completely crash your screen. Well, the answer is millions. Literally millions of papers. It is humanly impossible to read all of them in a lifetime, let alone for one single project. And you know, that is exactly why you absolutely cannot just start with a broad idea. A good, manageable literature review has to begin with a tightly focused research topic. If it doesn't, you'll be drowning in data and completely paralyzed before you even write your first sentence.
Let's compare two ideas here to show you what I mean. Think about artificial intelligence, which we just established is way too broad, vague, and frankly, impossible to tackle. Now compare that to deep learning-based defect detection in solar panels. See how incredibly specific that is? A topic like that instantly gives your research a crystal clear direction. It makes the workload entirely manageable because you know exactly what you're looking for, and honestly, you know exactly what you can ignore.
So, how do we actually get from that massive idea to the specific one? We use what I like to call the funnel technique. Let's walk through it together. You start broad, say engineering. Still way too big, right? Okay, narrow it down to robotics. Better, but let's go a layer deeper into industrial robotics. Then we drill down again to vision-based pick-and-place systems. And finally, at the very bottom of the funnel, we land on our highly specific, actionable subtopic, deep learning for vision-based pick-and-place. See how easily you can whittle down a giant field into a bite-sized piece you can actually master? But wait, having a great topic isn't quite the whole shebang. You need an anchor. You need a research question. This is your guiding inquiry. It goes a crucial step beyond just having a topic because it gives you a specific problem to solve. And for it to actually guide your literature review, this question absolutely must hit 4 criteria, no exceptions. It has to be clear, specific, researchable, and focused. If it doesn't check all 4 of those boxes, well, you need to refine it a bit more. Let's see this in action. Sticking with our robotic vision topic, think about these example questions. What deep learning techniques are commonly used for robotic pick and place? Or which object detection algorithms provide the highest accuracy? Or even, what challenges remain? Do you see how a focused topic just naturally generates these highly specific, completely researchable questions? You aren't just broadly reading about robots anymore, you're actively hunting for very specific answers. Okay, once you have that solid question, you need keywords to actually search the databases. But here's a little secret about how research databases actually think. Researchers rarely use the exact same terminology for the same concepts. That's why mapping out multiple synonyms is an absolute game changer. For example, if your main keyword is deep learning, you also need to search for neural network or CNN or AI. If you're looking for pick and place, you definitely want to try object manipulation. It's all about casting a smart net to catch those relevant papers that just happen to use slightly different words. And this leads perfectly into setting your absolute boundaries. I love to call these the bouncers of your literature review, your inclusion and exclusion criteria. For inclusion, maybe we're only letting in papers that are post-2020, peer-reviewed, in English, and specifically about industrial vision-based robotics. And for exclusion, that's who gets kicked out at the door. Medical robots, excluded. Agricultural robots, excluded. Patents, excluded. Having these strict boundaries is exactly what keeps completely irrelevant data from sneaking in and wasting your precious time. Now, before we put all of this together, I want to rapid fire through some common pitfalls. Please, whatever you do not fall into these traps. Mistake number 1, your topic is too broad, like just typing in AI. Number 2, it's too vague, like robots. Number 3, you don't actually have a guiding research question. 4, your keywords are way too limited. Actually, scratch that. Never just search a single word. And finally, number 5, having no defined scope, which inevitably leads to the absolute worst habit of downloading every single paper you find.
Contrast those terrible habits with the best practices we've been talking about, and you're going to save yourself weeks of frustration. Case study, the electric vehicle walkthrough. Let's tie all of these concepts together with a real-world example so you can easily map this onto your own work. Here is that powerful funnel technique in action one more time. Watch how we drill down. We start way up at the top with the totally unmanageable idea of electric vehicles. Step 2, we narrow that down to battery technology. Step 3, getting closer, we focus on battery management systems. Step 4, we isolate state of charge, or SOC estimation. And finally, step 5, machine learning-based SOC estimation. Boom! We just went from an endless ocean of car papers to a highly specific machine learning battery application. That's how it's done.
And right from the bottom of that funnel, our inquiry basically writes itself. Check out this research question. What machine learning techniques are used for battery state of charge estimation in electric vehicles? Massive improvement, right? It's perfectly clear, specific, highly researchable, and it flows completely naturally from the exact scope we just built. Of course, to protect our time and sanity, we immediately set up our bouncers, our scope. For this EV topic, we explicitly include only journal papers published in English from the year 2020 onwards. And listen to what we are ruthlessly excluding: hybrid vehicles, pure battery chemistry papers, patents, and review articles. Defining these exact criteria right out of the gate stops you from wasting hours reading about older battery chemistries or getting sidetracked by cars that still use gas. It keeps you locked in.
So, what is the big takeaway here? This final topic approval checklist is your ultimate blueprint for your next deliverable. Before you read a single paper, you need to complete this exact 6-point checklist. You need a working title and your funnel progression mapped out. You need a clear research question. You've got to have 10 to 15 keywords and synonyms ready to go. You must have your inclusion criteria, your exclusion criteria, and finally, a brief 100 to 150 word justification of why this topic is actually feasible. Knocking out this specific checklist will absolutely prevent a weak topic from ruining your whole literature review down the line. Which brings us to our final question for today. Will your next research topic be a chaotic ocean of millions of papers where you just drown in data? Or is it going to be a laser-focused, perfectly manageable inquiry that you actually enjoy researching? I really encourage you to immediately apply these funneling techniques to your own work. Save your sanity, take absolute control of your scope, and go conquer that next literature review. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer, and happy researching!